Hello, everybody. Glenn Loury here. That is Glenn Loury Sr. I am greeting you by way of introducing a bonus episode of The Glenn Show, which is a conversation between myself and my son, Glenn Loury II, about, about mortality, about death, about the tragic loss of those whom we love, about, as my son puts it in one of his collection of short stories, What Death Can Touch. This episode is a conversation about my relationship with my son, with his late mother, with his late aunt, my sister Leonette, and uncle, my brother-in-law, Wesley, about our struggles, Glenn Jr., and my struggles to survive these losses and to cement a fruitful and honest relationship between one another. This is heavy, heavy stuff. Too heavy to post at Christmas. So we delayed the posting of this episode until the new year, but not too heavy for us to take on board here at the Glenn Show, where we are devoted to the truth, not just the political truth, not only the philosophical truth, but the personal, candid, and honest truth about how we're living our lives, about the relationships that we share with others, including those very close to ourselves, about love, loss, life, these sort of things. It's for my project of living life in good faith, living the life that is actually there and not the one that I wish were there or that I would have other people see as if it were there. Not a fraudulent life, not a life of artifice, but a candid and honest life. This candor and dishonesty can be painful both to witness and to exhibit. But it seems to me that if one wants to live in good faith, this is the only way.
I'll confess to you, my son, that I eminently aware of my own mortality, and actually, when my heart skips a beat as it does occasionally, or I feel a twinge and, spasm in a muscle or indigestion from a meal that doesn't quite go well, or fatigue. And, I think about the fact that my days are limited and I have premonitions. And, having watched your mother, who passed away from breast cancer in 2011, as you know, having watched her suffer and die, I just have trepidation and anxiety in my anticipation of the fact that I too shall pass from this, how does Shakespeare put it, shuffle off this mortal coil, something like that.
You shall cease strutting and fretting your hour upon the stage, to quote another soliloquy.
I wondered whether or not, you're younger than me by 40 years.
Yes, exactly 40. So you're kind of like a useful, although we're in that brief space where technically you're now 41 years older than me, because I'm 35 and you're 76. But you sort of like are a useful age marker for me, because you are still here, thankfully, and still hopefully have many years left, despite the thoughtful tenor of this conversation. You are of an advanced age, but you're 40 years older than me. And life is long, but it is something that I think I've been aware of my whole life, or at least my whole adult life, given that I did lose my mom so young, and I did watch her dwindle and become less of herself. The year where she passed away was a year where it was really just me and her in the house, and I was taking care of her. And that becoming more and more of a taxing thing as she became sicker. And, there are all these things where you can mark time. I remember the last time that she played the piano, which was, I think, the thing only I was able to witness. I remember the last time she drove a car. And so there are all these memories that are just mine. memories that inculcate an awareness in you of how fragile life is and how short it is and how quickly you can lose it. And the time passed and the moment grew nearer. And, you know, obviously it is a big thing to die, but the moment itself is kind of like a small and quiet thing that happens. And at least to my recollection, it has been some 13 years now. And every memory is an echo of the previous time you remembered it. It's not a memory of the actual event. So you romanticize things, you turn them more poetic in your mind so that you can accommodate the pain that the absence of this person leaves in you. But to my memory, it was like this very quick thing, very brief exhale. And then there wasn't another. And then there wasn't another. And then there wasn't another. And then at that point, you realize what has happened. And we were all blessed to be in the room. Blessed that happened. And, there was
You and Nehemiah were in the bed with her, one on either side. You were reading The Skinny Dip.
Yeah.
McCoy was curled up on a rug by the door that led to the porch outside the bedroom. The sun
McCoy,
was
our
going
dog.
down.
He's not a human being. I feel that we should mention that.
McCoy I thought that was implicit. He's curled up on the rug. McCoy is the dog.
Our dog at that time, who has, of course, since passed, since it's been 13
Your mother
years.
was a big fan of the jazz pianist McCoy Tyner. We named the dog after McCoy Tyner. I recall you shouting out, "Oh no," when you realized no more breaths were coming.
I don't remember what I said, but I will take your word for it. That does seem right. And then she was dead. And I was saying it's a small moment, but it's a big thing. Is people are these collections of experiences and thoughts and feelings and memories and relationships that feel so meaningful to us. But all it takes is the passing of 1 second to the next for all of those things to be erased.
We're recording a conversation here that will appear at the podcast. And we're talking about death, talking about the death of your mother. And it makes me think about the death of my father. Because as it happens, which was in 2018, September.
I remember.
We were on the phone with each other then. We were on a Zoom call recording an episode of The Glenn Show when I received, during the time that you and I were conversing for the record, a telephone call coming in from my sister informing me that my father had expired.
Your sister, who herself has since passed.
My wonderful sister, Leonette Loury Smith, who died much too young. And her husband has also died. God, Glenn, we're talking about all these people who are gone forever. Her husband, Eugene Wesley Smith, died, I don't know, about a year after he lost his wife, my sister.
It was about almost a year exactly. Yeah.
So this is grim. The end is coming. The end is coming for all of us. I fear it.
Why did you want to talk about this? This feels very bleak.
I wanted the relief of the unburdening of self. I wanted to share my trepidation with my namesake son. I wanted consolation. I wanted to be told it's going to be okay.
I don't know that. But you are okay right now. You have been okay for a long time. Now you're here. You have The relationships with your children have been fraught, but as life has progressed, it has gotten to a point where you are in a good place with all 5 of them, which was not true of your own father when he passed. And I think the goal of every generation is to do better than the one that came before it. So if you're looking for solace, you have accomplished that, and you will continue to accomplish that because your life is not done and your work is not finished. And I am not ready to lose you. So you can't go. I won't allow it. I've watched you grow old. I remember when you used to be able to, when Clifford was the name of our dog, walk with him for miles. You used to be able to walk him into the ground. You and Ajume went on a walk once where you got lost and you walked like 10, 15 miles up the road and had to walk back.
Can't do that anymore.
You would go on long bike rides. I don't remember this, but in the family memory, there's a time when we lived in Cambridge and I was a very young child, and you put me on the back of your bike and you would ride me through Mount Auburn Cemetery. And that Glenn Cartman Loury Sr. is gone, as is the person I was at that time. We are all increasingly aged snapshots of the people that we were in the past as time progresses. It is inevitable. And you mourn those people that you used to know. But I'm also very glad that I still get the chance to know you, because while that person, the version of you that is before me today, is perhaps a less vital and less physically able Glenn Cartman Loury, I also think he is a wiser and more patient Glenn Cartman Loury than the man who raised me. So you are a older and frailer man, but you're also a better one.
That's good to hear. It's for others to say, but I accept that with pride, because, it didn't have to be.
No, a lot of people don't grow. It's not guaranteed that people will learn from their experiences. People like to say with age comes wisdom, but I've seen a lot of evidence to the contrary. Sometimes with age comes ossification, a certainty of correctness that freezes people in wrongness. But you, ever the iconoclast, have shown an ability for reflection. You aren't always right, and I think you're actually quite often wrong.
Hey, watch that.
This was me swinging from an insult into a compliment. So let me stick the landing here. But you are someone who is willing to admit that perhaps you are wrong. You are capable of listening to feedback. Certainly more capable of listening to feedback than when I was in my 20s. You leave space in you to listen to a message that will change your mind, and that is a quality that is not as prevalent as perhaps it should be in people of your age and stature.